What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to basketball, and more importantly, welcome back to our season preview series. This is a series where I'm breaking down all 30 NBA teams before the start of the regular season, and now it's kind of the dead point in the basketball calendar. Not too many people are caring about basketball right now, but if you're like me, you're kind of a basketball sicko, and you know that the season's not that far away. You want to get caught up on all the teams, what's going on around the league, and just be prepared. And in this video, we're going to be talking about the Houston Rockets. We're going to be talking about what their season looked like last year, set some goals for them this year, talk about their offseason. It was an eventful one. We'll do a complete roster and salary cap draft pick breakdown. There's a lot to go over as far as this team's depth chart, rotation ideas, lineups, and then we'll finish with the standings prediction at the very end of the video. But before we get into all that, make sure that you guys like, subscribe, and comment. I've responded to every single comment to my YouTube channel up to this point, and I intend to keep on doing so. As always, there's a bunch of other season previews and other pieces of content to go look at on the channel right now to help you get prepped for the season, even videos you don't see on here right now because I pre-record a lot of these. Yeah, just go show them some love and support so that I know that we want to do them next year. But anyway, let's go talk about the Rockets. And that brings us back to the season preview spreadsheet. For those of you new to the channel, I like to build these spreadsheets to kind of help articulate and visualize the stories that I'm telling here on YouTube. And you can actually get access to this spreadsheet if you want. It's really, really simple. Just go down into the description of this video. You'll see a link to go join my Discord. It's completely free. Click on that. Go to the announcements channel on the Discord, and you'll see a link to download this spreadsheet. Really simple, really easy. I'm updating it all the time so that we try to have the most up-to-date information on there, so just go download a new copy whenever you need it. Anyway, the Houston Rockets, because, man, I'm sick of doing these little spiels in every video. I know some people are like, hey, AVC, like, these videos would be better if you didn't do those spiels every single time. I have to, because people still ask the questions. And look, this might be some people's first video, so you got to do what you got to do. But anyway, the Houston Rockets, wow, what a jump they made last season. I think a lot of us were looking at the Rockets and coming into last season, and we're like, yeah, I think they're going to make a little bit of a jump. I think that they're going to be like a play-in team or something like that. Maybe best case scenario, like a low true playoff team, which we call the true playoff teams nowadays, like the 1 through 6, I suppose, since they're guaranteed to get in the playoffs. But wow, Rockets got the 2nd seed. All of a sudden, this team figured out a little bit of an identity. They're like, we're just going to be defensive juggernauts, mostly because that's all they could really do. They didn't have a lot of shooting or creating or scoring on their team. So they're like, all right, we're just going to be locked down defensively, be great athletes, and just see what happens. And yeah, they were the 2 seed. They went in. Obviously, the playoffs didn't go that great. It doesn't help when your leading scorer isn't actually like a high-level creator on your team. And so, you know, here's what it is, right? You ran into the playoffs, you knew that that was going to be a problem, but this team went and addressed a lot of that stuff this offseason and trying to find some creators, trying to find some more spacing, trying to get just a little bit more creative with lineups. Now, we've hit some hiccups. We've hit some hiccups along the way, but this team does look like one that's going to be pretty damn good again this season. How good? We're not exactly sure. A lot of it's dependent on the growth of some of these young players, right? But let's remember, and this is going to be a consistent theme throughout the video, this is not NBA 2K. People are not guaranteed to just get better and better and better, right? Despite what a lot of us think are going to happen. But anyway, we've got a couple things to talk about in regards to this team. First, franchise status. This team is a contender in my eyes. This is a team actively trying to compete for a championship, doing the best that it can in that department. Now, if you're new to this series, there's kind of 5 different categories that we think that you could fit in as a franchise. The first is a selling team. That's a team that's actively trying to blow up and kind of reset their team. Rebuilding. Teams that are trying to find those couple of core young guys to kind of build a team around. This team has certainly found some of those guys. Growing teams, which is probably where this team was last year, is where you kind of have some of these young guys that you've identified. They're going to be kind of the base of your franchise, and you're going to start to put the right pieces around them to try to turn yourself into a contender. And this team then sped up the process a little bit by going and adding a guy by, I don't know if you've ever heard of him before, Kevin Durant. He's a very good basketball player. They've added him to the team. Clearly trying to contend and win a finals right now, right? That's where this team is located. We also have the who the fuck knows category, because there's always a couple teams in the NBA where you just can't quite figure out what their strategy is and it doesn't make sense. You don't want to be in this category. You'd much rather be in any of these 4 because they kind of lead into each other and there's a flow and a direction with them. Don't be in the who the fuck knows category. But anyway, this team's acting like a contender. I think they certainly are a contender, so this is where we find them, and that doesn't mean they don't have flaws. All the contending teams have flaws, even the Oklahoma City Thunder do. But we're here to talk about the Rockets. Goals for this year are very short, very simple in my mind. The first one, grow AP and Amen. Alperen Şengün and Amen Thompson, they're phenomenal young talents. They really, really are. They're very interesting players. Do they necessarily fit next to each other in like an ideal basketball scheme? Probably not. Two guys that don't necessarily space the floor. They do a little bit of creating on their own, but not a ton, at least not yet. And so it's like, okay, really, where do these guys fit in? But this year is going to be a big year of growth for them. Obviously, having a lot of good vets around them is going to be very beneficial because they are very talented and they seem ready to kind of take that next step and be like kind of true all-stars. I know like Şengün kind of has been in that conversation already, but like we're talking like bona fide, like this is an all-star player in the NBA. There's no question about it. Both of them have the talent to do so. Let's really try to have a big growth year for them. Do what we can to help them because they're going to be the things that carry us through the playoffs at some point. Next thing, got to find a point guard solution. Fred VanVleet is down and out for the season. It's really unfortunate. It looks like in some sort of like workout or training camp thing. I think he tore his ACL, right? It's really unfortunate. This team does not have a ton of true like ball handler creator depth or whatever. Again, Şengün does a little bit of that. Amen Thompson does a little bit of that, right? After that, you've got like an Aaron Holiday who's been around for a while. You have a Reed Shepherd, which we're hoping is going to be a solution, but it's just hard to tell right now. But we probably need to find a more immediate point guard solution to try to help supplement things in the meantime. And it's hard because this is a very sudden thing. This is not something you were looking for or whatever. So now you kind of got to open up the phone lines and figure out what to do. And this team might not do anything about it from what we're indicating or from what they're kind of indicating. They might just say, and look, whatever teams say in the media and everything is mostly bullshit anyway. Do you know how much PR training I've been through? I can't even imagine how much PR training they've been through. So I could see them just saying, hey, we're going to stick with AP and Amen and kind of supplement it with other people, but something to think about there. And then finally, just add another shot creator. I even had this on the list before Fred VanVleet went down. This team could probably just use a few more people that could really generate kind of like 3-level offense and generate looks for other people. Like Durant can go get a bucket whenever, right? We understand that. Amen and Şengün, like inefficient in a couple areas, right? They're still young. They're still kind of figuring things out. But even so, like Kevin Durant's still a guy that likes to play off some pin downs and come off of like some other screens and flares and floppies and things like that. So it's like, hey, if we could get some people that could kind of run the show a little bit, that'd probably be beneficial to the group. So I think that that's something that you want to try to find in general. Really, these two goals right here, probably one and the same, right? You probably get the same thing in that player. So now that we've kind of talked about those goals, keep them in mind as we go throughout the rest of this video, because I think it's going to be important to kind of keep those in mind as we talk about some of the other topics at hand. But anyway, let's go talk about their offseason, because there's a lot of familiar names there. Okay, the off-season tab. Basically, we cover the off-season in like 3 different stages. We've got drafted players here. These are players that the team drafted that are going to be on the full-time roster. There are none of them this year. No like true rookies on the roster as of right now. Player departures, guys that were on your roster at the end of last season that you had to say goodbye to for whatever reason this year, whether it's free agency or trades. They're not on the team this year. And then the players brought in. These are the new faces, new guys joining the team this year via trade or free agency or whatever. That are going to be on your full-time roster this year. Very fun names on that list. So again, no drafted players this year. I always say, I always think a team should have a rookie just for a culture standpoint. I've mentioned it in a couple other videos. I think it's good when a team, even if it's just one guy, right, and it's like a second-round pick, there's someone on the team that everybody knows is like trying to make it right in the league, and that forces everyone else to kind of be a teacher because they want to help them. And when you put people in a position to be a teacher, normally they get better at being a player. But regardless, they've got some young guys on this team that need the help anyway, so it's not a huge deal. Player departures. First one, your number 1 scorer from last year, Jalen Green. And now, I mentioned that he's like the leading scorer on this team or whatever, because typically that sucks when that happens. But I feel like if you ask most Rockets fans, they were like, okay, I'm kind of done with the Jalen Green experiment. Former like number 2 overall pick, Jalen Green is an immense talent and an example we use all the time on our channel. We kind of talk about how Jalen Green is the example of what a lot of young modern basketball players are, where they are more athletic and skilled maybe than ever, because Jalen Green is a 10 out of 10 on the athlete scale, right? He's got decent mechanics. He can handle the ball pretty well. It's all great stuff, but doesn't actually know what he's doing on the basketball court all that well. Never really learned a lot of the X's and O's. Too much AAU growing up. Not enough time like actually learning like when to cut when you don't have the basketball. Like, oh, when should I hit like this window? How should I read this situation? And it really bit him in the butt, because there's been times where it looks like he's kind of figuring it out and then it kind of goes back. You got to the playoffs last year and teams knew exactly how to stop him, and he doesn't know how to read the game. He's just kind of trying to be an athlete out there, and he got shut down. He got shut down hard. And so the experiment was deemed over, and he, along with Dylan Brooks, were flipped into what is now Kevin Durant. And wasn't Clint Capella a part of the deal as well somehow? I think he was. Like, it was like a huge, like, 7-team detailed trade when it all went down. But Jalen Green, on his way to Phoenix, wish him the best. He still, at the end of his Rockets career, was not very efficient in one particular area, and nobody could set him up for anything. He scored like all of his own points, and again, he wasn't very efficient in what he was doing, so kind of is what it is. I don't think it's such a bad thing that he's gone. I wish the Phoenix Suns and him all the best in trying to develop him. I really do. I'd love to see it work out for him. I really would. Dylan Brooks, a little bit more of a productive player for you. Definitely attitude, energy guy. It was great that the franchise brought him in to be a part of that rebuild. Really set the attitude for the young guys, right? We all know he's a true, like, villain dude, absolute menace defensively, and he shoots the shit out of the three, especially in the corners. That's what he does, right? There's not a ton else going on with his game, but those excellent 3-and-D wings like he is are very valuable. That's one of the guys he had to lose in order to get Kevin Durant. Well, that's just is what it is. You're going to take Kevin Durant over Dylan Brooks any day. Like, I'm sorry, it's just what it is, right? I don't need to explain that to anybody else. But Dylan Brooks, you say goodbye to. Another guy that kind of falls in this Jalen Green category of players, Cam Whitmore, a guy that at one point in a draft was looked at as like a top 5 option, fell all the way to like 20-something, and the Rockets picked him up because they already had another first-round pick, and they were like, hey, let's see what we can get out of this guy, because he's a super athlete, right? Like, he can kind of shoot from the outside. That's great. He's big, he's strong. Like, maybe he could be a plus defender, but the dude was a black hole when he had the basketball, man. He was not passing that thing, and you could tell where he's going on a basketball court as soon as he touches it. Like, I know it's hard for maybe like the average, and I'm not trying to put anybody down when I say this, I promise you. Like, for someone that has a pretty good understanding of like how to play basketball, right? I've just been at some higher levels with this stuff. Watching Cam Whitmore play confuses me so much, because I'll be like, okay, yeah, like there's just like certain reactions that you expect players to have where like they'll catch the ball and I'm like, okay, now this is gonna happen, then this is gonna happen, and he just doesn't do it. He's just like, okay, here I go, and something happens. You're like, whoa, what's going on here? It's very off-putting, honestly. And so that's where Cam Whitmore kind of fell in his time with Houston. He wasn't really able to get on the court, and I know a lot of people see the dunks and they see him hit like a couple threes in a row and they're like, oh wow, this is great, but you don't understand how hard he's making it for everybody else in the basketball court to be good. But he's a young guy. We're going to give him time to develop. He's in Washington now. You ended up trading him there just to free up some space, and he's going to get the chance to hopefully shine there. So we wish him the best. And then Jacques Landale, another guy not on this team anymore. Reserve big man that honestly doesn't necessarily thrive in a lot of the things that big men should do. He's going to be a reserve for Memphis now, so not a huge loss all said and done, especially because this is one of the few teams in the NBA with the excellent big man depth. So we're doing fine there. All right. Players brought in. We lost some interesting people, right? Leading scorer, big 3-and-D guy, young guy with maybe some potential if we teach him how to play fucking basketball. Who did we bring in? Well, very notable names. First, Kevin Durant. I don't need to explain Kevin Durant that much to you. All you need to know is that this guy is still one of the best in the game, right? He's still one of the best players in the NBA. If you put him out there, he will score 30 points and you won't even realize it. He is literally efficient from everywhere on the basketball court. Literally. He can get any shot up from anywhere. Does not matter. I can't tell you how many young NBA players I've talked to, and I'm like, hey, who's been like the biggest shock to guard in the NBA? They're like, Kevin Durant. They're like, it's absurd. They're like, I think I'm doing a good job against him, and then I look up and he has 25 points, and I don't know how the fuck that happened, because he went exactly where I wanted him to go defensively, and he just keeps hitting jumpers over me. It's so fucking stupid. And I'm like, that sounds frustrating, to say the least. So Kevin Durant, awesome. Great that you have him on your team. He will be your leading scorer. He can win you playoff series by himself at this point. I know he's getting older still, and he's not as big of an impact defensively as he used to be. He used to be a top-tier defender. Not anymore. But he's old. Who cares? He's going to score 30 points whenever you need him to. So there you go. You have Kevin Durant now. That's awesome. Dorian Finney-Smith. You lost a 3-and-D guy. You got a 3-and-D guy. They're basically identical players. I'd say Dylan Brooks is probably a little bit more valuable, but Dorian Finney-Smith shoots the shit out of the three, plays good defense. He is dealing with a couple injuries right now, so he might not be ready at the start of the season, is the sound of it, but I guess we'll see. Dorian Finney-Smith was a great pickup because the Lakers weren't willing to give him a long enough contract, so you were able to scoop him up. Very, very good addition to this team. Clint Capella. Yeah, somehow you just ended up with Clint Capella. You already had 2 good centers on the team, and now you got Clint. Clint was in a weird situation last year. If you look at his numbers were kind of down across the board. He was hurt for a good portion of last year, because even just the season before, he was still an extremely productive player for Atlanta. He does what he's always done, right? And now he's back in Houston. He does the run, jump, dunk, block shots. That's what he is. That is his role out on an NBA court. But again, last year, playing through some injuries, and then he sat out at one point. I talked about this in the Hawks video that you guys can go watch now. It's definitely up by now. Basically, he sat down with Atlanta and was like, hey, I'm probably not getting a big extension out of you guys, right? And they're like, probably not. And he's like, okay, I really need to get healthy so I can kind of go get my next contract and everything. Can we just kind of call it that we're not like doing anything else this season? I'm just going to sit out. And they're like, yeah, man, that's cool. And I'll keep applauding. Cool that Atlanta and Clint were able to do that. Just good guys being good guys all around, right? So younger players got to get on the court for Atlanta and kind of show their stuff, and they found some stuff because of that. So I think it worked out for everybody. Clint's a great guy to have, and it sounds like you're going to try some 2 big lineups with him this year. And then Josh Okogie. Josh Okogie was on like a non-guaranteed deal with Charlotte that they didn't pick up because there was no reason to, and Charlotte has like 40 players on their roster, so they needed to cut some people. Josh Okogie's a great defensive player, man. And on occasion, he's been able to hit some open 3-pointers. Last year was one of his better seasons. He's still below average, but we hope that he can be a decent shooter. That's a big hope because it's never necessarily been the case before, but if Josh Okogie could ever learn to shoot from the outside, look, plenty of people are going to take the attention away from him, so hopefully he can do that. But what he brings on the defensive end is always great, and it's really fun to watch him get out in transition and then blow wide open layups. I don't know why, but it happened a ton last year, and it was really funny whenever it happened. But no, Josh Okogie is a nice player to have on kind of a minimum contract on this team. It's good to just have a guy you can throw out there, you know he's at least going to work his ass off defensively. So there you go. Summary of the offseason. You didn't draft anybody. Not a big deal. Player departures. I think it's honestly better that Jalen Green's not on the team now. Dylan Brooks sucks, but you got Dorian Finney-Smith. Cam Whitmore wasn't going to help you right now anyway. Jacques Landale's kind of meh. You added 4 impact players to this team. 1 superstar, awesome. A couple elite role players, and Josh Okogie, who can be very serviceable. Great. Very, very good. Great job, Houston. I think you did a really nice job again this offseason. You guys are being run pretty well right now, it seems. But yeah, let's go talk about what the rest of the roster is looking like and touch on this depth chart. Okay, roster breakdown tab. If you guys have been on the channel for any amount of time, you definitely recognize this tab. We use it in a lot of different series because it kind of gives this all-encompassing view of a team. You've got like a roster breakdown with player salaries, options, and some statistics. You have a team salary cap breakdown, which is helpful. Some draft picks to take a look at. And then the thing that, Rockets fans love to debate depth charts, man. I can't wait for the fucking comments of, AVC, I can't believe you have Josh Okogie in front of Reed Shepherd right now. Do you know how good Reed Shepherd is, AVC? Do you know how good Reed Shepherd was, Billy? Come on now. Let's be real for a second. Now, we'll touch on the depth chart, okay? We're going to touch on it because this is a very confusing one to try to figure out. I've just got it in an order right now. Don't worry about it all that much. Don't worry about it, okay? I see you worrying about it. Shut the fuck up, okay? There's bigger things going on in the world, right? There's wars, and you're worried about where I've got Jayshawn Tate on the depth chart. You fuck. Shut up. Let's go talk about the roster before I go too much further into madness. I can feel the comments being typed right now. Anyway. AVC, what are these numbers on the screen right here? These are EPM numbers. They stand for estimated plus minus, basically a really, really advanced statistic we have in basketball that tells you how good somebody is at offense, defense, and then overall as a basketball player compared to everyone else in the NBA. I then take those numbers and like normalize them and index them so that we can get this like 0 to 100 score. 0 obviously being the worst, 100 being the best at something. And I just think it's always important to say in these videos, like, don't look at any statistic and just assume that that's the complete reality of everything. There's always nuances and context that stats can't capture. And look, I own a stats company, right? I will be the first to always say this to my clients, right? It's important to have people that have critical thinking skills because critical thinking's on the decline. Just wait for the depth chart comments. But You need to be able to say, okay, why was Reed Shepard a 15th percentile offensively last year? Why was he only a 27th percentile defensively, right? Because is it just Reed Shepard's bad at offense? No. Is it he's just bad at defense? No. There's context behind things, right? And you need all of that to tell the complete story. So just know that that's the case with things. All right, current roster breakdown. We already talked about Kevin Durant. Alperen Şengün, young fella. He was killing it in Eurobasket again this summer, man. It's great. What's awesome about Şengün is he's a very kind of unique body type and player, right? Everyone's going to call him the Jokic light, and that's semi-accurate, right? Because he's a pretty good passer, he's skilled, he's got good vision, like he's got good mobility with like his feet. He's a surprisingly good athlete, despite having like no dorsal flexion. Whenever he like goes up for a dunk, he has some crazy posters for things. It's really, really interesting to me, honestly. But where we're lacking is in efficiency in probably every department, right? Like let's even just pull up the stats so we can see exactly what we're looking at here. So here it is. 34th percentile at the rim, 60% for a center, not very good. Not good from the mid-range, horrible from three, right? Not exactly strong suits of his, but context, right? This team has had no spacing up to this point, not many creators to kind of help him get easy looks. He has to do so much of it himself right now, and honestly the ball's going to have to go back to him even more this year because Fred VanVleet is out, right? And again, Durant will help a little bit, but a lot of it's still going to fall on his shoulders. So we got to find some easier ways to get him some easier buckets, because we all saw in the playoffs last year when they tried to just go down to him down in the post and like three people would like collapse on him and he'd have nowhere to go and he couldn't get a shot up. It's unfortunate, right? Because again, he can't really step out anywhere. So we got to find some ways to, get him involved in the offense, yet get him some easy looks as well. That way we can get the full Alperen Şengün kind of experience that we want. We talked about Fred VanVleet. He is out for this season. I'm not going to go too much more into his game. It wasn't like the greatest stats last year, but again, context, there's not a lot of other creators, spacers, things like that. He wasn't going to be great. But he was a huge part of this team because he was kind of the true, clear point guard, primary ball handler option on this team. That's what he's good at. Now you don't have him this year, and you don't have a great backup for it, at least not an obvious one. Steven Adams. Wow, I'm glad Steven Adams got a nice little contract extension this year. For most of last season, wasn't like anything like too crazy for this team. He's coming off a major injury, so it's not a huge deal, but man, you got to the playoffs and all of a sudden you went double big. You went Şengün and Steven Adams, and then all of a sudden you had something. He's still everything that you want Steven Adams to be, right? Because he's not a guy that shows up in the box score. He's going to grab a ton of rebounds. He's going to play great defense. He is going to set the meanest screens that get you so much more open than you will ever realize. The art of setting a screen is actually so important. I can't tell you how mad I get. I might go play pickup later. I played some pickup yesterday. Motherfuckers come up and set screens for me, and then one, they just keep setting the screen. They don't go anywhere. So now I got two people on me. It pisses me off so much. Or they just kind of like, put a shoulder into it, and now I'm like, well, what the fuck was the point of that? I'm not going to call you up to set a screen for me. I'll just ISO next time. I'll just do that myself. But no, I try to run a pick and roll and pick up, but y'all fucking suck at it. So Steven Adams, really, really valuable. It's what he does. Obviously, huge culture guy as well. We love Steven Adams. Already talked about Dorian Finney-Smith. Jabari Smith Jr., young fella, another former top pick and young prospect on this team. When you look at Jabari Smith's numbers, he over-indexes in like both the offensive and like defensive category, right? He is an above-average NBA player. Defensively, very, very solid. Always knows where to be on the court, right? He's never making like enormous plays, but he's very, very competent on that end. Offensively, he's really struggled with kind of finding his confidence in the NBA. At this point, he is not really able to create for himself, and that's been a big struggle for him, especially because there's not other creators around him, and he's just not finding a lot of efficiency out there. So he just got this big extension. That's why he's got like 6 years left on his contract there or whatever. But just looking at Jabari, we've got literally a league average. He is the exact average of like a three-point shooter right now, but he's not that great at the rim, not that great from like mid-range or whatever. So we got to get the three-point shot up. Can we see like how are we? And again, this is a young player, right? So we got time. This is only the fourth season, right? But are we going up? We're not even necessarily going up. Like we kind of were stagnant this last year. Like we got to try to find something in his offensive game that's going to get him going, because he's a versatile player. He's a good athlete. All of this, it's just we got to find his thing, right? But I'll keep noting this. Who's gonna set him up? Because it's not him creating. It's not him creating. He needs other people to create for him. So that's gonna be the question. Reed Shepherd. Okay, this is the one that got me in trouble with Rockets fans at one point. Last year's draft class was not that great. We all kind of understand that and know that now. There's always the people that get obsessed with the shiny new things coming in, and AVC on his channel, if you were watching, was like, hey, and I professionally covered this draft. I worked for an NBA team when I did it. I was like, hey, like, I don't necessarily see high-level talent in this draft. I don't. Like, I see some good players, I see some interesting prospects, but nothing like elite. Not like this draft class that we just had, where I'm like, wow, I see 4 all-NBA guys, which is also kind of a rarity in the sense. But Reed Shepherd was one of those guys where I looked at in the top 10 where most people had him, and I was like, I don't understand necessarily. I like the shooting and everything. That's really cool, but I'm really worried about this guy because I don't know how he comes into the NBA and contributes right now. People in his role don't really exist anymore. The big thing is he can't create for himself at an NBA level yet. He's not like a true creator, like playmaker. Point guard really is like the term you guys are probably looking for. That's not exactly what he is. He's more of an off-ball type of guy. And then defensively, while he thrived in college, there's just some basic things of height and weight that matter. By the end of last season, I felt so bad for Reed Shepherd. Like, every time the guy he was guarding would catch the ball, he'd take like a step or two back. And it's because people were just putting their shoulder into him the whole season and just going right through him. And that's what I would do as a player. I mean, I'm 6'5", 220. He's not stopping me. He's just not. Yes, he's getting his hands on the ball, and in passing lanes, he's a very smart defensive player. Like, I never found that he was out of position. I love the effort and everything, but he just can't guard people. He's not bigger. He's not big enough. And that just is a thing with basketball ultimately. But we need somebody. We need guard play this year, and there's nothing right now that indicates that he's going to be ready for this next season, right? I know the offseason just happened, but this isn't 2K. Your overall doesn't just go up between June and August, right? That's not how this works. And I'm sure he's working on things or whatever, but mind you, we're still just a couple months removed from it. There is something to say about not being in your rookie season anymore and just having a little bit more confidence, because now you're going into your second media day, your second training camp. You're like, okay, I've been here before. So that helps you start to build on things. But, and I'm not trying to say like don't expect him to be good or whatever. I just know that he's a big talking point for this team right now. So I'm trying to help people set expectations. I'm not trying to tell you he's not going to be good or he is going to be good. Just have good expectations for this guy. Don't be disappointed if it doesn't look good right away. Because again, we haven't seen it look good up to this point. That's when Billy comes in. He's like, AVC, did you not see that one game that he started last year where he had like 30 points or whatever? AVC, you fuck. Reed Shepherd's the GOAT. Relax. Okay, relax. But no, we're obviously rooting for Reed Shepherd this year. He's going to have the chance to prove himself. He's going to be a big part of this team. I don't know if making him like a playmaker is the move, but it is what it is. Amen Thompson. Oh, we love the Thompson twins. We love the Thompson twins. This is a real tone shifter. They're awesome. There's never been an athlete like Amen and Asar Thompson coming into the NBA before. Amen, maybe the peak of all of it. Defensively, absolute juggernaut. Potentially the best like one-on-one defender in the NBA, just because his athleticism is so just nothing we've ever seen before, and the ways he uses it are so creative, just in the way he blocks his shots, his timing, all of this is nuts. Again, I continue to ask, I don't know who taught him how to play basketball, because he didn't necessarily play for anything like too crazy ever growing up, but whoever was his like coaches and whoever was watching film with like him and Asar all the time have taught them how to read the game like perfectly, and it's so impressive. They know when to cut at all times. They know where to be on the floor at any given moment, right? It's just it's a coach's dream. So while yes, he can't shoot a 3 yet, he does have kind of like point guard experience in his past, nothing close to NBA level, but we know that they were kind of working on making him more of a primary playmaker and stuff. He's got good passing vision. He's elite at getting to the rim and finishing there. So he's probably the most logical option to take up that role with Fred VanVleet gone. Talked about Clint Capella. Tari Eason. We love Tari Eason. He's been going on a bit of a Twitter spree recently, just calling out fans. That's why you don't have social media, man. Just don't. Social media is a cesspool of nonsense. I say this as a guy that's actively projecting his voice out into the ether of YouTube and yelling at invisible people called Billy, but we're not here to talk about that and my problems right now. Tari Eason, great at what he does, right? Good defensive, a really good defensive player, honestly. Good rebounder for his position. Offensively, Can't create for himself either. Not exactly efficient in any one particular place, but again, hasn't had anybody to really set him up for things yet. So maybe things would get a little bit easier if they could, because look, not everybody is a creator at the NBA level. But Tari Eason, really valuable bench player to have on this team. Jayshawn Tate, not a lot to go off this last year. Undersized forward that I actually don't know why his numbers aren't populating here. Jayshawn Tate definitely played last season, did he not? Yeah, he did. So there must be like the VLOOKUP just isn't working correctly. His name must be just spelt differently. Give me 1 second. Oh, look at that movie magic. Your boy fixed the formula. Yeah, no, the background name just didn't match the front or whatever. But anyway, Jayshawn Tate, undersized forward, good defensive player, not much going for him offensively, not a bad reserve to have on the team. Aaron Holiday, honestly, I think you guys are sleeping on Aaron Holiday, most of you. I've always thought Aaron Holiday's a really good reserve guard. I mean, you look at his numbers here, and again, there's context with everything, right? But this guy's an above-average NBA player. He's extremely efficient from three, and he takes quite a lot of threes when he gets in the game, and he can play with or without the basketball. He's not a bad defensive player at all. Like, all the fundamentals are pretty sound. I think he's a good option for, like, a backup guard. So if you can figure out kind of who the initial creator is, if that's going to be Amen Thompson, I think you're actually like not that bad off, because I think Aaron Holiday can fall into that. And if Reed Shepherd shows some growth and he becomes like an average NBA player, then great, you might be fine for this year. But I just wanted to give some Aaron Holiday love because I think he's a nice option for the team. And then Uncle Jeff Green, as always, it's always good to just have one guy on the back of the bench that's kind of the connection between the coach and the players, right? Jeff Green's been around for a while. I believe him and Durant are the only two Supersonics left in the NBA, right? It's probably been that way for a while, but funny that they're both on the same team again now. Jeff Green's not going to get into the game very much, but just an old guy at the end of the bench that'll be the first one to get into a fight if something happens. So great to have guys like that on the team. Very well-built roster, Houston. Very, very good. Okay. Let's talk about the depth chart, right? Again, I think Amen Thompson is the clear kind of starting point guard, if you will, and play initiator for this team. I think that makes sense. It's going to be good for his development. It might not be perfect right away, but I think that's the first guy you kind of give the keys to. Looking at like the center position, you're absolutely loaded there. You look at like the forward spot between Jabari, Tari Eason, Durant, Dorian Finney-Smith, hell, like a Kogi and Tate can play there as well. You got a lot there. You got a lot going on. At the guard position, it is a bigger question, right? Because we have non-shooter, you got a shooter there, and then hopefully a shooter. I mean, I like his mechanics and everything. It just obviously didn't fall last season, right? So I just have nothing to say that he will shoot that well at an NBA level. But we obviously could use a little bit more help at this guard position still. Just somebody that's maybe not as big of a question mark would be great. Amen's great at a lot of things already, and he's a lot of people's pick to be like a first-time All-Star this year, but I think you guys know what I'm asking for, right? Okay, with depth chart kind of handled, let's talk about the team's salary cap position, because this is kind of important. This is a bit of a struggle. So if you're new to these videos or you don't know how the cap works, basically there's 4 levels to it. There's the cap line itself, which in this case, they've crossed it. That's why this is at a 0. Once you cross that, you can only re-sign your own players to anything more than a minimum contract. There are exceptions to that, but it gets a little bit complicated. Then you have the luxury tax line. Once you cross this one, which they have, that's why this is a 0, your team gets way more expensive to operate. And every single year you spend in that luxury tax, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until you pop like the Boston Celtics had to and you have to trade people because it's just you can't operate as a business anymore. This team, it's cool with them being over the tax, right? They're a good team trying to win a championship. I completely understand it. Now, the first and second aprons, if you want to see all the implications behind the aprons, just pause the video. I've got them up on the screen. Get out of here. G-Force driver. I don't even exactly know what that is. But yeah, pause the video, see what those aprons do. But just know these are newer things that the NBA added to stop star players from being traded quite as much, bring some balance to the NBA. The deeper you go into those aprons, the less you're able to do with your roster. You can't trade these people anymore. You can only do trades that look like this. You can't sign players like this. You lose these draft picks or whatever. All of this other stuff gets very complicated. If you're going to be in these aprons, you better be really damn confident about your team. Now, this team, if I remember correctly, they can't actually like cross into this apron because they've used exceptions up to that point that kind of gate them from going into it. So the Rockets only being about $1.2 million away from this, you can't even sign a minimum contract guy. Like you're out of space. This one roster spot you have left, this is good for flexibility, but you can't go find like another point guard or something for cheap right now. You've got to find different ways to make trades because you're kind of You're being, you just can't go. You can't go there. You can't play there right now. That's just kind of how it is, unfortunately. So this team's going to have to get creative with trades or hope that internal development is going well. And then as far as draft picks go, this team's in a pretty good spot overall, I would say. Especially in 2027, they have this swap best with Brooklyn. You might get another like high-end lottery talent in just another year, which is kind of crazy. I guess 2 years from now, which that'd be a great addition to this team, right? Because by then maybe Amen and Şengün are both on big-time contracts, and then you have another like young player kind of coming in that'll be a high-level contributor. That's awesome. I love that they have a couple second-round picks coming in next year, because again, as your team gets more and more expensive, these second-round picks are good ways to kind of put really cheap people at the end of your roster here, and it gives you more space to operate up here, which is awesome. Good stuff. And we can use some of these second round picks now to maybe go try and help us at this point guard spot. But with all that being said, let's think about trades, y'all, because again, I'd like to add a guard to this team. We do have extra depth at the big man position, right? We've got some extra depth here. It sounds like right now the Rockets are trying to use 2 bigs in lineups at times, which I think makes a lot of sense. Try to be a bit of a gimmick team if you would, just be a little bit different. I think that's great. But look, I'm not even saying you should start Josh Okogie necessarily or anything, or it should be Reed Shepherd or whatever. We just probably need to add some guard help to this team. So let's go to the trade portion of the video, figure out what can be done. And that brings us back here to Fanspo. Fanspo, for those of you that are curious, really, really cool website that lets you do these mock drafts, mock trades, a bunch of other fun stuff or whatever. It's a great website. We love using it on the channel. Here's the problem with Fanspo, and we bring this up in every video, I know, but it's a free website, and my theory is the people that run it aren't necessarily incentivized to come update their stuff all the time, so their trade machine isn't currently up to date. They don't have like rookies and stuff in there. We go check every day just to see if maybe it's been changed. Maybe. It hasn't. It hasn't. You didn't see a Cooper flag there, unfortunately. But this is just our little like shout out into the void. But hey, Fanspo people, could you please update it? We'd love to use your app. We really like your stuff, so please update it. But anyway, we're going to use the Spot Track trade machine. It's just a beta version. It's not as good as Fanspo. It's got its little annoying quirks, but they do keep their numbers up to date, so it'll be good enough. All right, let's just say, in theory, right, we were trying to add a new guard to this team. How could we go about doing this, right? If we're trying to win right now, we're trying to add another guard to the team, how would we do it? I know there's a particular player that has been thrown about, because if we go just take a look at people and their salaries, and you take a look at guards, right? It's like, okay, we need to add a cheaper guard to the team. Kobe White is in the last year of his deal. Cheap guard that can score with the best of them. He's efficient, like all around. So you got better at getting to the free throw line this last year, and the Bulls are fucking morons and didn't like trade him before. You could probably go get him, right? And we'll explore that trade today, and I think that's a logical place to at least start things. But how do we actually make this happen, right? Because this is a win now type of move. Well, we need some salary to make those things work. I think the first thing that you look at is Reed Shepherd right here, because again, he's a question mark. I know a lot of people think Reed Shepherd's just like going to be good this year, and if that's your theory or whatever, that's great. I'm down for growth. There's some talent there, no doubt, but up to this point, we haven't seen it yet. So we have $10 million that we can work with right here, though, in that trade that almost gets us there. And mind you, we don't have much space to work with before we hit that apron that we can't cross. So how are we doing this then? What else are we throwing in to kind of make this work? There's the Tari Eason angle here. You can say like, hey, you can incentivize the Bulls to trade their 20-point-a-game score that's on a cheap contract, right? Given it's the last year of a deal, by saying, hey, you get a mystery box in Reed Shepherd that we're not sure what he's going to be, and Josh Giddey can just feed him for forever, and you get a Tari Eason who's a pretty solid player. I don't think you need to give up that much. I also think it's important to note that just trading like a Reed Shepherd probably isn't enough in a deal like this, because I know he was the 3rd overall pick just a little bit ago, but GMs aren't fucking stupid, right? They're going to say, well, he was not very good last year, so that's your fault for taking him or whatever, and nobody's going to base his game off of like how he played in college. So, like, I don't care, this is how he played in the NBA. But again, there's potential and curiosity there, and the Bulls probably aren't opposed to just going for that. So what else can we throw in to make this work? Like Jae'Sean Tate, totally a guy that you could throw into this, and then maybe the Bulls just want like draft picks a little bit more, right? What does this get us to? That gets us almost damn right there. So let's see where this lands us. Where are the Rockets? It's so hard to navigate this stuff. Okay, here we go. Here we go. So the Bulls are sending over wow, these numbers are like actually super close here, and you might just be able to do this deal even before the season starts then, which would be awesome. Oh no, you can't trade him till December, and so that's why the Tari Eason one is being posed right now. That would be nice. So if you needed to do the trade right away, you could throw in Tari Eason. I don't think you even need to throw in a draft pick at that point. I think that's probably just that you might say, give me a second round pick. Because again, this is like a 20 point a game score on a $12 million contract, right? Defensively, there's questions and stuff, but pretty damn good option, probably the best option out there. I could see this as one option. If you're willing to wait a little bit longer, you might be able to keep Tari Eason, though, and maybe you do a Jayshawn Tate instead. And does this one work? Whoa, this one actually doesn't work. Oh, no, they went over the, the apron just by a little bit. Oh, it's so close. It's so incredibly close. What do we get to? 899, and then what do we need to get to? 899. Oh, boy, yeah, that's close. Okay, so, yeah, there's really only one way to go about it then, unless you also send over, like, you would also have to send over, like, a Jeff Green or something like that, but now you can't package those people together, can you? So it kind of has to be Tari Eason, unfortunately, and I know you like Tari Eason. You do have some other options there, but you get a Kobe White, you know, it's something to do, and then maybe you figure out a way to flip a Van Vliet or something like that. That's another option. Let's think about just trying to trade Van Vliet, right? What is his, does he have the ability to just like veto his deals or whatever? I think he does. So he might not want to be traded, but I guess we'll see. We'll also just explore like what else can we get at this, right? Just kind of looking around here. So anything cheaper than Kobe White that could come in and play some point guard for us. Gabe Vincent, not exactly the option that I'd like. Mike Conley. Do the Timberwolves want Reed Shepherd over Mike Conley? Probably not. Probably not, if I'm being real with you. Scoot Henderson is obviously hurt. Jaden Ivey would be really cool. Don't imagine they're just giving him up right now, though. Ty Jerome would be cool, but I don't think they're giving him up. Trey Jones. You could call the Bulls up and say, let's do a Trey Jones type deal. But now this is where things get a little bit more complicated, right? Because, again, the Bulls have a ton of guards that you could go get. I'm thinking of another team now that has a lot of guards that will investigate as well. But let's say instead you go after Trey Jones, who's a very good guy at, managing the game or whatever. You know what? Let's pull up Trey Jones just so you guys can see his numbers and maybe get caught up on the idea of him. This is a good three-point shooter, a guy that really moves the ball around, doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He can manage the game for you, right? Like fine defensive player, so pretty good option at the point guard, right? Are you okay with giving up just like Reed Shepherd for that or something, right? Maybe the Bulls throw in a pick or something like that even. The Bulls love throwing in like a second-round pick or something for that. I don't know. I don't think you should have to throw in a first-round pick for that. I really don't. But is that a better option? I don't necessarily know. The other team I can think of that has a lot of guards right now is the Charlotte Hornets. The problem is theirs keep falling apart and breaking. I don't think you can afford a Colin Sexton necessarily unless they're willing to just take on Van Vliet's contract for like a draft pick. Then it's kind of interesting. But again, Colin Sexton there's pros and cons to him. He'll score and play make with the best of them, but defensively, he's rough. Other options, Trey Mann, if healthy, could be kind of cool. You'd have to wait for the deadline, and that sucks a little bit more. So you'd like to be able to go and get somebody right now. Ayo Dosunmu, another option that I see a lot of people get excited about. He didn't have as great of a year last year, but it is what it is. I wouldn't go as far as Javon Carter as your solution. Who else could you really go for here? D'Lo would have been a good option for you. Chris Dunn is at least serviceable, and he plays good defense. He's not necessarily the primary ball creator that people wanted him to be, or playmaker that people wanted him to be at one point. So I don't know where else you'd go. Like Alvarado would be cool. Deuce McBride would be cool. Again, not sure you're getting those guys. So that's where the struggle becomes a little bit more apparent. So if you do want a guard solution by now, it seems pretty evident that you have to go the Kobe White route. That seems like the best way to go about it. And yes, I'm a Bulls fan, yada, yada, yada. I don't think I'm being biased with any of this. Kobe White's a good basketball player. The Bulls also, Again, didn't trade him before he was in the last year of his contract, so that lowers the value a little bit. But if I'm the Rockets, Reed Sheppard, Tari Eason, I don't know. I think what I might do instead, if I was the GM, I would try it for half a year, right? Like, let's see what we do with Amen and Şengün and see if Reed Sheppard gets a little bit better. I feel pretty good about Aaron Holiday being an option for us. Let's try it out with those guys. If it's not going well, maybe we call up the Bulls about Kobe White, right? And then maybe we can do a Jayshawn Tate and Reed Sheppard type move, and we just have to include like a little bit of draft capital or something, and we can make that happen, because I'd really like to hold on to Tari Eason if I could, because I'd like to try to develop him a little bit further. But, you know, you got to make sacrifices if you want to get good things in life. So it is what it is. Those are just some ideas of what to do. I'm not going to explore the Fred VanVleet trade angle too much, because I just don't know who would be vying for that, and we can't take back more money, so it's not like we're getting like an even worse contract or something like that, and at least the player would be playable. So it's just kind of too complicated to probably try to figure out. But with all that being said, let's move on to the rotation. All right, rotation question mark, big question mark on this one. Let's give it 3 question marks on this one, because look, again, I know people are going to have strong opinions on this. Just shut the fuck up. And when you go to the comments, give your argument for why you think something should be the case. Don't just say, this guy's a fucking idiot. Why isn't Jeff Green the starting center? I don't get it. I don't know. The people will say stupid shit like that. They just will. These are always just my ideas based off the basketball that I watched the previous season, right? I'm not in the training camp. I'm not in this. I don't know what kind of lineups they want to run or whatever. This is just what I would do with the rotation, right? This is how I would like to see things. These are obviously averages for minutes in a game, and then these EPM numbers on the right here are just these numbers here, but weighted by the amount of minutes they're playing now. So you'll see I've got Josh Okogie in the first 5, and I don't necessarily love that, but I can't confidently put any of the other kind of guards out there right now. At least I know I'm getting some great defense out of him, and I hope I can get enough scoring between the other 4 people here. Hell, if Kevin Durant's on the court, we'll always be able to get buckets. I think with Amen out there as well, that's great. Let me just put Josh Okogie and Amen Thompson out there together. Shut people down earlier in the game, just have elite perimeter defense. Maybe you create some easy, like, fast break opportunities that get going between them. I think that that's a good way to get started with offense, right? Because it's going to be harder for us to create offense, so you got to look for opportunities like that. Obviously, got Amen, Durant, and Şengün. I did that in the wrong order of which I clicked them, but you know what I'm talking about. I got them playing the most minutes. They're clearly our best players. We need to get more out of Jabari Smith, so he's going to be out there quite a bit. 2 key bench players are going to play starter-level minutes, and Dorian Finney-Smith and Tari Eason. I think that makes sense. Okogie, I don't have him playing starter-level minutes, because of course. Steven Adams, right now I've got this set up to where he could just play whenever Şengün comes out. I don't have Capella in the lineup right now, because I think at the beginning of the season, we got to experiment more so with like the guards and figure out what we're doing there. But if you want to do some 2 big lineups between like Clinton Adams, or it probably wouldn't be those 2 together, it'd be Şengün with one of the other 2. I could see that as well, because look, you got to get a little bit gimmicky, just get as many rebounds as you can, give yourself more opportunities to score. I think that makes sense. Obviously, Aaron Holiday, he's more proven, so I got him out there, and then we're going to give Reed Sheppard a chance, because again, important to note, last year, Reed Sheppard was not playable. He was not. You couldn't do it. And so we're going to give him the chance and hope that we get to the point where, hell, if he's the starting point guard by the end of the year and he's like lights out shooting, let's fucking go then. Then we're back in business, right? But that's a lot to ask, but we're going to give him the shot because we need the play at that position. With all that said, let's go over to my lineups. This is where I free ball things a little bit more, and I come up with a couple different lineups that I want teams to try to run throughout the game. First one, we're a defensive team. I got to throw out a super defense lineup because it's awesome. So you got Amen, Josh Okogie, Dodo, Tari Eason, and Şengün. A 92 defensive rating on here, almost 93. That's insane. That is insane. That is ultimate lockdown D. And then you just have to hope that these 2 can figure out a way to put the ball in the hoop, because these guys are creating nothing. But if you get a little bit of a lead, throw this lineup in, that lead is safe. Next, we're working on Amen being a bit more of a creator. We've put Reed Sheppard out there so that he can try to build some confidence maybe without the ball a little bit first, maybe a secondary creator. Got some spacing out there between Durant, Dorian Finney-Smith. Obviously, he's going to be hitting Durant on a lot of actions, right? That's good ways for him to get involved, cut after the basketball, all that stuff. Steven Adams, set the meanest screens possible so that Amen can start getting downhill. That's a great way to start it. And then let's try the double big lineup. It was interesting in the playoffs, obviously. Got to have a little bit of spacing outside of that. So I've got Holiday and Durant out there. That should be enough to kind of run a bit of the offense. And then we're just going to have Josh Okogie kind of guard the best perimeter person that we can out there. And those are kind of my ideas for things, but I'm down to hear your ideas because, again, there's a lot you can do with the rotations of this team. But with all that being said, let's move on to the standings prediction part of the video. Okay, not too many of these left, y'all. Not too many left. We're on episode 29 out of 30, so only 2 more left. Obviously, the video you guys see tomorrow will be the Timberwolves video, but where do I have the Rockets, man? That's an interesting. By the way, I haven't recorded the Warriors video yet because I'm just waiting to see what happens with the whole Kuminga situation, so you guys already know what's happened at this point, but I'm going to have to record that video really late one night to get it out on schedule because I have a reason for the release order that I do. But anyway, do I have the Rockets again at a 2 seed right here, falling into the same spot that they were last year? Or are they coming in at a 6, a little bit lower than they were last year? Drum roll, please. Ooh, where's AVC going to put them? Is he going to piss some people off? Are they going to be happy? I got the Rockets as a 6 seed. I got them as a 6, which is still good. The West is really, really good, and I think this is an awesome team. I do think that this team has a couple things that are going to be difficult, right? Like one, just creating offense, as we've talked about this entire video. I think there's going to be a little bit of growing pains to figure out how these 2 guys, along with Durant, are going to coexist. How are they just going to generate offense in general? I think the defense is still going to be really, really good. There's also some early season injuries that it seems like this team might need to kind of push through, but without adding another kind of guard or creator to the lineup, I think this team could stall out on certain nights. So I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see is kind of the answer. But hey, this is still a great basketball team. I think they can make a lot of noise in the playoffs. Like if that team made the finals, wouldn't necessarily be shocked, right? I expect some of these other teams a little bit more, but is what it is. I think the Rockets are in an awesome position. It's just an injury really kind of knocked them out. And again, I think they just have some growing pains that they still need to kind of get through. But regardless, I want to hear your thoughts. You guys know I always have a pinned comment down there where you can tell me what seed you think a team's going to finish at. But with all that being said, let's move on to the comments and go to the comments of the video. Alrighty, y'all. Comment of the video is coming from our Portland Trailblazers season preview here. We got the Damian Lillard holding the "I'm back, baby" little sign. Always exciting to have him coming back there. And speaking of that, has to do with our comment of the video. Comes from K. I know you've been commenting the video before, my man. I just don't know how the fuck to say your name. He said, Portland might have made some questionable basketball decisions, but they made exceptional business decisions, which I completely agree with. Dame coming back is going to ignite a lot of interest. Yang Hansen, as confusing as the pick was, there's going to be a lot of Chinese fans that are going to want to watch the games. Totally true. They're loyal as hell. That's completely true as well. So if he turns out to be even serviceable, you're going to have a lot of fans, which, yeah, that's the business side to the game, right? How much that played a part in the drafting of him. Hard to say, right? It's still, like he mentioned, a really weird draft pick. It's a weird message you send to your franchise by taking him. But regardless, is what it is. Thank you for the great basketball conversations. If you want to have more, go join the Discord. Link's in the description here. It's completely free. It's also how you get access to this really cool spreadsheet here. Just go to the announcements channel, download it there. I'm updating it all the time, so just come back whenever you need a more up-to-date copy. But as always, I appreciate you guys. Like, subscribe, comment, do all those things. Share your video with your Nana. Let you know I'm going to be by later, and I expect my cereal, so just keep all of that in mind. But anyway, hope you guys are having a great week. We'll talk to you guys later. One more video to get through, and then we're there. All right, talk to you guys later. Bye.